All right, everyone, we have brought Filippo back to the channel to talk a little Nations League with you guys. It's been a while since we had a Filippo on, so I am excited to get his opinions, and I haven't really touched too much on the Nations League. So first things first, Filippo, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing good. I thought I was banned from this channel after sending you that T-shirt right there.
This one right here, just I am a rude Canadian.
Yeah, because you never invited me after that. So I was like, did I get banned? There was this like some Canadian travel ban or something? But no, I'm back. I'm happy to be back. I'm a little tired. Last night I was in the Mexico versus Guatemala game, super late. I didn't get home till super late. A lot of traffic here in Orlando lately, but yeah, everything's good.
Yeah, I mean, you had a small suspension. So I think it was like a 20 episode suspension, something like that. So you've served your sentence. You're back here. We're here to talk a little Nations League, and it's kind of cool. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Nations League, and I'm just gonna get your quick opinion on it because I know like even the European Nations League as well as the CONCACAF, there's split opinions. I like it because I've gone well over a year before these World Cup qualifying, not seeing my national team play for a while. Like it was well over a year, and on top of that, the matches before that were friendlies. So anything to get competitive matches to me is a good thing. And you can't tell me that the players don't care about this. When Canada beat the US in that match, we were losing our minds. And then that final was absolutely incredible, seeing the US and Mexico play together. And I mean, the celebrations after this tournament's matters a little bit. So I just kind of want to get your overall perspective about going through the tournament and winning it.
Well, I think this tournament ahead of any friendly, yeah, it's definitely better, right? There's something at stake. There's a trophy, and eventually the United States, Canada, Costa Rica, all these tougher countries in CONCACAF will face each other. We'll go through the groups, how the groups are not maybe the toughest or the best opponents for teams like the United States, Canada, Mexico to maybe build something out of it. But yeah, that or friendlies, I prefer the Nations League. We did win the trophy last season, and it mattered to us to win the trophy. We were in the group of Canada and Cuba. Then we went on to semifinals against Honduras. Then we beat Mexico in the final. But my only problem is not really with the Nations League specifically. It's we have Nations League, we have Gold Cup, and I just get this constant feeling that Mexico and the United States, and now we can also include Canada as well, they need to be playing teams from different confederations that are a little bit tougher, right? No offense to the teams in CONCACAF, but due to lack of resources and in the development in the league, a lot of them like facing a game, just no offense to them, but what does the United States gain from facing Grenada, right? Once in a while, sure, in Gold Cup, sure, but why Nations League and Gold Cup, right? We need to find something else. So I have different ideas in regards to this. I'm not a massive fan of the Gold Cup every 2 years, for example, so I'm picking more in the Gold Cup here. So yeah, we can keep Nations League. I would like to see nations like Mexico and the United States and Canada in maybe a Copa America. I think they would benefit a lot from that. And in terms of that, it's a trophy. And I think Nations League, if you want to be the dominant team in the nation, you have to win trophies in the nation, right? It's not just about qualifying to the World Cup. You qualify to the World Cup, that's the bare minimum, qualifying. And especially now with the expansion, right? But you got to win trophies in the region, right? And I know the United States has benefited quite a bit from playing them at home, but it doesn't matter. The trophies are what matters at the end of the day, who wins it. And especially for Canada, right? This is a great opportunity for Canada to make a statement, right? You guys qualified the World Cup in first. Now win a trophy against the United States and Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, you took a lot of the words and the points I was going to go on because I've been a big fan of this idea, and I think that you are as well. And it's not getting rid of the Gold Cup because I mean it's a traditional thing; it should happen. But how nice would it be to have the Gold Cup like at this one cupping year instead of it's every 2 years? It's Gold Cup, and then it's the Copa America mixed with the CONCACAF, whatever you want to call that. Mm-hmm. Then so you go Gold Cup, the combined, then back to Gold Cup combined. So the Gold Cup's technically every 4 years, and then you get this added pressure of taking on countries like Japan, or Japan could be a guest, one that I featured a few times, but Argentina, Brazil are the main ones. But you made another good point, and again, and it's something that maybe Canadians should be a little bit worried about is I know that we're on this rise, and we've obviously improved it quite a bit, but the last time we played someone outside of CONCACAF was a friendly. It was well over a year ago, and it was against Iceland. So yes, I mean, what we did in World Cup qualifying and the Gold Cup was a lot of fun, but we still don't know what it's like to take on a ton of really talented countries. So I'm really curious to see what kind of friendlies the Canadian national team are putting together. There's still no announcement yet. I know you guys have your two. But so, I mean, it is interesting. And it's a good point because the group stage is a little interesting. So we're going to take a quick look at it right now.
Can
And
I add one thing, Josh, before you do
yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Because I want to say one thing. Friendlies, they're not useless, but they kind of are at the same time, right? They don't match the intensity, sense of urgency. Like, for example, the United States will play Uruguay, right, in June, like you talked about the friendlies. If Uruguay or the US is down 2-0, we're not going to see a desperation of intensity. That's not going to happen in the game, right? Players avoid trying to get injured in like 50-50, but don't get injured in a friendly. So friendlies are good for teams to build chemistry, maybe practice positioning, set pieces, or maybe some tactical approach that the coach wants to. But it's just not the same. Being a competition like the Copa America or Nations League, there's levels to it, and that's where I think friendly should be reduced. Friendly should literally be just before a main competition, like the World Cup this year. We're gonna have the World Cup. There will be a couple friendlies in October or November. After the roster's out, there's always one or two friendlies before the World Cup. That's fine because you don't want to get injured and you want to do some testing here and there. Those friendlies are fine. Now, friendlies in the middle of the year out of nowhere, it doesn't make sense to me unless you're trying to make money. Like that's the
Yeah.
only way I see it.
Yeah, and I agree. And I was about to ask you, is like this the upcoming friendlies that Canada or the US is going to take on before the World Cup, I think have a very different meaning. But honestly, if you gave Canada a friendly in the middle of the year against even like a Colombia or a Poland or something like that, I would take a Nations League match, a competitive Nations League match against Grenada, for example, over it because it it's a game that's got a little bit of something that weighs to it. So
Yeah,
I
that's
definitely
because you're
agree.
afraid of Luis Diaz. That's why.
Well, I mean, I'm excited. Like, I like friendlies, but like I get your point. It's just like there's not much to get around. It's no other reason than 11 substitutions at halftime. It's just a way to get, I guess, a little bit of chemistry. There's no other real reason. That's why I'm really curious to see these upcoming friendlies, but see who Canada takes on, see how you guys do, because this kind of matters. It matters. You're fighting for a World Cup spot, not even as place on the team, but potentially you want to be one of the starting 11. So they're going to take these friendlies, I think, a little bit more seriously, and it'll be a nice test there. But taking a look quickly before we kind of talk in about the different squads that are going to be going into it. But as you guys already know, I mean, the groups, there's 4 groups, there's 3 in each group. They're laid out pretty easily. I mean, Mexico, Jamaica, Suriname are in the first one. I think you'd argue that's probably the group of death if you want to say that there's one. I mean, those are 3 decent sides.
Yeah, they're teams that, for example, Suriname away, if Mexico is at their worst, it can be a draw. Suriname could pull an upset. Jamaica is a wild card, right? We know we know they have fantastic players, especially for CONCACAF, but are they gonna be there? I mean, they got rid of Tapa Whitmore on the coaching, but the thing with Jamaica is their problem is not having players. They definitely have players to compete. It's just they're a mess outside of the field.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no denying that. And I'm curious to see again how many more English Jamaican players that they're going to potentially target, because that's I think where a lot of the success would potentially come from, because there is a ton. If you look at the amount of English players that are eligible to play for Jamaica that still haven't yet, like they could build a pretty solid little team. It's just whether, I mean, they're interested, whether they want to do that. There's Josh, a lot that.
We got to add one thing too here that you're probably going to mention eventually. Nations League has relegation. So
yes, it does.
Mexico,
Yes, it does.
Jamaica, and Suriname. So let's say Suriname, they're going to be playing to not get relegated. And this means a lot to them because they definitely make more money playing Jamaica and Mexico than they do in League B, which they'll face Cuba, Barbados, Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, Nicaragua, whoever's there at the time. So for Suriname, it matters a lot to not get relegated. And so that's why there's so much at stake with that. There's promotion relegation in this. So the first seed goes to semifinals. The second seed, I believe, qualifies directly to Gold Cup. There's something like that. And stays at League A. And then the third place gets relegated to League B.
All right. So let's hear your predictions then for Group A there. You got Mexico, Jamaica, Suriname.
So look, there's no rosters and we don't know what the teams are going to do. We talked about this off screen that Mexico might bring a B squad. Regardless, I fully expect Mexico to top this group. Probably not with ease. They're not going to win every game. That's what I think. They're not going to win every game. It's going to be a tough group, somewhat with the difficulties they face in World Cup qualifying. And I do think Jamaica is also going to hold second and Suriname will finish third and get relegated.
Now, and that's like one of the things that I found very interesting. Now, I thought I read an article. I mean, I've been trying to find it again before here just to have something to turn back to. But I thought I remember reading or had the assumption that Mexico may bring a B squad. So I was just curious to get your take on that. Do you think it's the right call leading up to a World Cup, going to look for potential younger players, insert Marcelo Flores, or do you think it's a little bit weird that they're not going to get these opportunities to play their full strength squad in honestly a World Cup year, which I don't know. I don't know if there's a pro or con for
So
each.
so Mexico has friendlies too, right? The same
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
So maybe in the friendlies they're gonna play their main players. I don't know. I don't know what Mexico's actually planning. I mean, by now the coach kind of has their World Cup roster at this point, right? The World Cup roster will probably be 26. The coach easily has like 16 days. Like these guys, if healthy, I'm taking them, right? 16 to 20. And then there's a couple spots up for grabs, probably with Canada, United States, and Mexico. I mean, they have their plan, right? We'll talk about Greg Berhalter soon and what I think he's going to do. I also do think he's not going to put the A squad in Nations League. I think he'll do the same. But remember one thing: this is for the group stage. I do think once we hit the semifinals, they're all going with their best. They're going to go to win it. It's just that Tata Martino probably thinks he can get through the group, testing some players and maybe giving some of the main guys some rest and maybe let them play the friendlies, which will be against better teams, I believe. I don't know exactly who Mexico plays in June, but I mean, honestly, because for the U.S. and I think it's a little different. I think the United States has easier opponents. Mexico can put themselves in a tough situation if they don't play their best. They have a tougher group, but again, they should be able to go through. I'm assuming Tata Martino has thought this through well enough. And there's also vacation, right? There's a tight calendar coming up. You need to give your guys some rest so they get to the World Cup and they're not beat up, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to think about. The calendar has been a mess ever since COVID, and this summer is not going to be any different, right? Nations League will go in all the way to June 14th. And preseason for European sides start, the first week of July? So there's all of that. So the players will get like roughly 2 to 3 weeks of rest. That's not bad, but you do need to give them some time off.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because you're right. I mean, whoever makes it to the semifinals, it's a full A squad, no doubt about it. But I mean, it's funny because we were talking about like Canada's squad and their group as well as the US's, and maybe you could get away with it. But I'm looking at this Jamaica Suriname, like it could be a tricky little group. So I'm curious to see. But I do agree with you. I think more than likely it's going to go Mexico going through, and I'd probably say Jamaica. And then
he might put like a hybrid squad, right? Like he'll rest like Raul Jimenez, Guardado, these players that are a little bit older, Hector Herrera, that are a little bit older, and at the same time had a long season, right? They might rest those guys, but you'll probably see everyone else there, right? Like if you talk about players abroad, like Johan Vasquez will likely be there, and even a player make fun of Diego Lainez. Why would Lainez not be there, right?
Yeah.
He's not playing for Al Betis, and against these opponents, he should have an impact. Should.
Yeah. No, and I'm curious because there's a lot of different ways that they can do this. Mexico are definitely favorites, and I no matter what squad they bring, I will probably back them to go through. I'll say Jamaica will stay in just barely, and then Suriname to get relegated. So we'll quickly look at Group B because there's not as much interest between the two of us in it. It looks pretty straightforward to me. I mean, you got Costa Rica, you got Panama, you got Martinique. Any thoughts on that group, Tack?
So this group, to me, we saw in Gold Cup Martinique, they're just not a very good team. I believe they're not even registered in FIFA, are they?
I'm not sure.
I don't think they are actually.
No,
I'm not
Martinique?
sure. Didn't Malouda and some French guys play for so anyhow?
Yeah, that's true.
So anyhow, going back to it, I think it's a group that it'll obviously come down to the direct matchup between Costa Rica and Panama, which I think that can go either way. It can be Costa Rica wins at home, Panama wins at home, or they tie both. That's going to be very balanced, as we saw in World Cup qualifying. They're teams that are in very close levels, even though Costa Rica got the best out of it. Regardless of that, Costa Rica in this first round is more worried about World Cup qualifying than Nations League.
Yeah, that's true.
How is Costa Rica going to approach these first two games in June? Right? Their worry is qualifying to Qatar. It's definitely not Nations League. So we'll see how that will affect Costa Rica. They have some good young players coming up. They have experience. Maybe Keylor Navas won't be Nations League. That's another thing to say. It might not be there. With that said, it'll come down to that matchup between those two, and probably it could come down at the end of the day to goal differential, whoever scores more at against Martinique. And just based off what I saw in World Cup qualifying, I know Costa Rica is not going to be defensive against Martinique, but they were a team that struggled to score volumes of goal. While Panama, on the other hand, they had games where they were perfectly capable of scoring a lot, right? They never really bunkered and played defensive. So I could see Panama scoring a lot more in Martinique than Costa Rica. just based off World Cup qualifying. So we need to see who they're going to bring up and everything. We don't have the rosters. We don't know how Costa Rica will approach these first few games, especially with the World Cup qualifying. But I actually will have Panama advancing, Costa Rica in second, Martinique in third. I have it that way.
I mean, you're not going to go down finishing second place, and if your attention is obviously on qualifying for World Cup, which is 100 times more important. I mean, I could see it. And Panama looked to heavy favorites for most of qualifying to go through, and they just shot themselves in the foot and had to restart. So I don't think it's a very unrealistic one. I do think it'll be very close. I mean, Costa Rica are very, very defensive. I think that their matches will probably be against Panama 0-0, 1-0 type matches. So we'll see which way it falls. But just to be different from tact, I'll say Costa Rica somehow slide by Panama as will finish second in Martinique. So now we move on to Group C, which is an interesting one. I mean, it's a decently strong group as well. I mean, Honduras. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what type of Honduras we're going to get. I mean, I might even tip them to get relegated out of this group. Curacao is one I'm very curious to see. They were supposed to play in the Gold Cup, right? They were the team that got COVID right before, so that was a bit of a shame because I was kind of excited to see them. I think they're a good up and coming little squad there, and I'm excited to see how Canada can match up against them. And then, of course, we have Canada, which got a nice taste of the Nations League last time against the US, where we got that win. Looked like there's a good chance of moving on, and we lost it, and you guys went on to win it. So I think in terms of Canada's Nations League group, that they're gonna mostly, I'm gonna say it's gonna be like an 80% of squad. It'll depend. It'll also depend on a couple of things. I think it'll depend on Jonathan David. There was a stat going around of how much minutes that he's put on between both club and country. He's played more than Lewandowski, for example. And if you guys know anything about Lewandowski, he's almost never not in the team sheet. So he's had a ton of mileage on him so far. Kyle Laren's had a really poor season in terms of club, so he hasn't had those type of minutes. So I think that if he gets his new club, he'll be tipped pretty well to probably play a lot of the games.
I remember from Orlando.
For Orlando, he's blocking the. Yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle.
So people loved him for the most part, and he did score a lot. But I never really rated him when he was in Orlando. So there's that. But that's a different topic.
Yeah, he got his Orlando shirt on. It'll be curious because I mean he did have a really, really good season, and he had a really good year this year for Canada. But his form has not replicated for Besiktas. He's leaving on a free. Doesn't really give a lot of incentive when he's not in form, and he's leaving on a free for the third manager of the season, or second or third manager of the season to play him. So it's a bit of a frustrating one, but hopefully he'll get a new squad and then he'll be up for looking for a ton of minutes. So I think Jonathan David is a key one for me that may not be there. Maybe Hutch as well. I mean, the man is almost 40. I just don't know how much minutes they're going to want to be. And if he does play, he'll probably maybe play one or a game and a half. But it'll mostly be a strong Canadian squad. I'm expecting maybe look at a couple of dual nationals to try to include. But I think John Herdman's been pretty honest and open about the players that he's going to basically show the brotherhood spirit to, because he's been so good to them for so long. So I think it'll be a very strong performance. I think Canada will top the group. I'm going to put Curacao. I'm going to put them as second. I'm going to put Honduras going down. Tak, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to go the same. I think Canada will go through because also there's this pride that Canada needs to win a trophy. And this is the quickest way they can win a trophy right now in CONCACAF, right? It's going to happen before Gold Cup. Honduras, the reason I'm going to put Honduras relegated is because of how much of a mess they were in World Cup qualifying. I think they have the talent to stay in second and to give even Canada a hard time. But we're probably going to see more of a Honduras, somewhat like we saw in World Cup qualifying, that things just weren't working out. It was just a big mess. And Curaçao has they're a very underrated squad, right? They got a lot of Dutch dual nationals coming along, a lot of good young players. And I'm interested to see Curaçao. I think this is very early, but I think Curaçao could be a team to battle for a 2026 spot. They could be battling for that. So I'm going to have Curaçao second too. Canada first, Curaçao second, and Honduras relegated more because of the mess that they were during World Cup qualifying rather than the actual players they have.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, with the spots opening up for CONCACAF, it'll be very interesting to see which CONCACAF nations will be going to the 2026, knowing that three of us are host nations. But yeah, no, I mean, you make a good point about Canada. I mean, we are on the rise. And at the beginning, when Canada started winning games, I mean, going on Twitter, you have no history. Like, you guys haven't.
You still don't.
So it's a good starting point. And John Herdman definitely, I mean, he took the competition very seriously last time out. It was pretty disappointing to win 2-0 and then get ran over 4-1. So I think that he'll have a little bit to prove, and it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting Final Four. I really enjoyed the first stage of it, and I did really enjoy it. I think it was a pretty widely watched match, the U.S. Mexico one. It was a really good match as well. So
I also think that when push comes to shove, Canadians will finally see that when they face Mexico and the United States at a game in knockout round, you guys are going to get knocked out. So
yeah, there
yeah.
we go.
So hopefully, so the way I don't know how the matchups work for the groups. I didn't really look that part up, but unless Mexico and the US face each other, I think Canada will lose in the semifinals.
Just right. Tax looking for another 10 game or 10 video suspension from the channel. That's fine.
I could use a break. I
mean,
go ahead.
Not overly convinced in Mexico. I'm honestly not. I just there's something about that team right now where it just I think until Tata leaves, they're just gonna be shooting themselves in the foot. But who knows what the squad's gonna look like by the time the finals come along. Mm-hmm. Regardless, it will be an interesting final, and we have one more group to take a look at. It is US, it's El Salvador, and it's Grenada. Again, pretty straightforward group, but we have Tact on the channel, so let's get his thoughts about it first.
So I think the US actually got blessed with the easiest group.
Yeah.
In my opinion. El Salvador is very well coached, we know that, but they do lack resources and even talent, right? Players. The players are not at the level of even like we talked about Honduras, for example. They have better play. Honestly, El Salvador, in terms of talent, they're probably below Curaçao. Right, they're probably below. Curaçao got some Dutch dual nationals, even better than El Salvador. They got Enrico Dueñas, it's a Dutch dual national, but even the Curaçao players are better, in my opinion. So, the U.S. was handed an easy group, and Grenada is probably somewhat at the level of Martinique that we talked about. The U.S. has to absolutely go through this group. Now, with that said, in June, what I think Berhalter will do is he'll bring a little bit of a larger roster. And a lot of the main guys will play the two friendlies with Morocco and Uruguay focused on the World Cup. And then he'll use Nations League to give opportunities to other guys. Obviously, like we talked about, more not really a B squad, but kind of like mixed because he does still have to win those games. But we might see some guys getting tested in those matches. I don't know if that'll help because how much can he take in a match against Grenada for a World Cup, right? He puts a player in and he scores a hat trick against Grenada. Does that even matter in terms of bringing him to the World Cup? But we do play El Salvador away in June. So that is actually a game that's not easy at all. And we'll see. But I think he's going to put Morocco and Uruguay, the main guys. Like, I don't expect, for example, Pulisic to play Nations League. I think Pulisic will play those games and then go rest. That's what I think. I think Pepe, too, some other guys will probably play the friendlies. Guys that haven't had much rest, and Jedi Robinson, guys that played a lot throughout the season, and then Nations League he'll mix up with some other guys. That's what I think he'll do. And I still think, regardless, the U.S. should go in first, El Salvador should go second, Grenada should go third. That's how I think this group will go. Probably the most predictable group. Anything outside of that is a major upset.
Yeah, I can see a Jesse Zardes hat-trick against Grenada and then him starting the first World Cup match for the U.S. So that's what I'm hoping for that comes out of this Nations League group. But
a hat-trick
against Grenada.
A Zardes hat-trick with the ball hitting the post, hitting his head, going back in. He's like confused. Yeah. Well, I don't even know if Zardes... Well, he might get called up. He was benched at the Crew, and then he moved to the Rapids now. Probably going to play there, I'm assuming. And otherwise, why would they trade for him? And... we'll see. I mean, I thought Zardes' time with the national team should have been done against Canada. That should have been his last game.
Yeah.
But yeah, knowing Greg, he really likes his boy Zardes, and he could be there in Nations League against Grenada and score a hat trick. He could do that.
Yeah, but it will be interesting. And I mean, seeing the U.S. win the Gold Cup with a B/C squad, whatever you want to justify that squad is, I think is also a bit of an eye-opening because, I mean, depending what Mexico is, I think Canada, like I said, I think they will take this tournament relatively seriously. For at least a group stage, while I think Mexico and Canada or Mexico and the US could potentially bring a bit of both, like you said, and look towards those friendlies. So it could be done. You guys won a tournament without your star players. Like it's pretty cool. I bet you Mexico is probably trying to look at that and take something
Josh,
away.
Remember what I'm saying is they might put a B squad because the focus right now is the World Cup. And then next year we have 2 more games of Nations League and then the semifinals. The US and Mexico are probably looking into this and saying, if we get 4 points out of this one, we can go to the next one and get 6. Right, especially the United States. If we beat Grenada and we tie El Salvador away, then we play Grenada away, which we should still win. Then we play El Salvador at home, which we should win. So that's probably the way both teams are looking at it. They can put a mixed squad here, still get 4 to 6 points, and they're in a good position to qualify next year. Again, Nations League is kind of awkward right now because it's right like in between the World Cup, right, very close, and those games don't really serve as preparation for the World Cup. The level is just not there, so it's kind of like in an awkward situation where these teams are worried about the World Cup and not Nations League.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a spread out tournament for anyone who doesn't know. I mean, group stage, the first 2 matches in June 2022, next one's March 2023, and the semifinals are June 2023. So we're definitely just speculating right now. It will be interested to see, but I mean, I think hopefully it'll be a tournament Canada can try to compete in, try to win. US will be trying to go back-to-back titles, and Mexico, who's had a miserable year, will be going through that, and then maybe a wild card comes in terms of Costa Rica. So, Tack, that's all we have time for today. I appreciate you coming on once again. You only received a 5-video suspension, so it's not as bad as the original one, but you know it's fine. Yeah. You'll be back soon. We appreciate you coming on, my man. Any final thoughts?
No, that's all. Looking forward to the Nations League, but again, I think I think Canada is too. We're all looking towards the World Cup. That's just being honest, right? It's not to take credit away from Nations League, and it'll be fun, especially next year with the semifinals. We're gonna have lots of fun with that, but I think right now everything's about the World Cup.
Yeah, and you guys have your friendlies. Canada doesn't, so we need to get on that because I'm getting just a little bit worried. But all right, Tack, I appreciate it, my man. We'll talk to you soon, and hopefully, if you guys did enjoy this video, as always, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you guys next time. Cheers, friends.